Good morning and welcome to Urban Update. I am Alberto Vasallo. Yes, after a brief break due to NBC's coverage of the Summer Olympics, we are back. On Urban Update today, we'll have information on two events that have quickly become annual traditions here in Boston. One is the Dimmock 5K Walk and Run that's coming up in early September. And we'll have all the details on the yearly Milagros para Niños Gala to benefit Children's Hospital, which takes place in mid-September. But up first, the very important and hot-button issue of law enforcement in America. With police officers now becoming very real targets for violence, the relationship between local police and the communities they serve has become paramount. This morning, we've invited four very high-ranking officers of the law in order to give these public servants an unedited and unfiltered platform so that they may each address you, our viewers, with their unique perspective on this unprecedented time in our nation's history. We now welcome to Urban Update Boston Police Department Superintendent-in-Chief Willliam Gross, who reports directly to the Boston Police Commissioner William Evans and is the highest-ranking police officer in the department. Next to him is Chelsea Chief of Police Brian Kyes, who is also the current president of the Massachusetts Major Cities Chiefs Association. Also here we have Everett Chief of Police Stephen A. Mazzie, who has, Mazzie, right? I got it right. Who has 100 sworn police officers and 12 civilian support staff under him. And our good friend, MBTA Transit Police Chief Kenny Green, who is entrusted with protecting the very diverse riding public on the oldest transit system in the country that cuts through virtually every neighborhood of the city and beyond. Welcome to Urban Update, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, absolutely. And we're going to get right to it because I wanted to give you guys this platform. So I want to go right around the table. I'm going to start with you. What's on your mind lately? And I want to just kind of give you an opportunity to give the viewers a little bit of your perspective.
Sure. So, Alberto, I think the first thing I'd like to say is, what we do locally can be much different than what takes place in other parts of the country. And actually, it's much different from what takes place in other parts of the state. So judge your local police department by what's happening locally, how they treat you, how they interact with you, and the results that you get locally.
Good. Ken?
Yeah, I haven't really had opportunity to address directly with members of the community of their concerns regarding police, but I hear them loud and clear, and I want them to know that the MBTA Transit Police committed to building upon the relationships that we've built upon over the years through transparency and trust, and that we value their partnership.
Good. I'm going to go to Chelsea now. Now we're going to cross the bridge, okay? Chief Kyes.
Sure. Thanks, Alberto. Yeah, I mean, it just seems like every time that I think personally that we're going to get beyond this recent trend of so-called negativity and sometimes outward hatred towards the police, there seems to be yet another high-profile incident involving deadly force that takes place at some location around the country. We saw what happened in Minnesota last month. We saw what happened in Louisiana, then recently in Chicago last week, and then Milwaukee over the weekend. And unfortunately, when events like this take place without knowing all the facts and there'll be investigations and so forth, it seems as though the pushback on the police is quite substantial, and it's something that we have to deal with in our local communities, and at times it's unfortunate.
Yeah. You're in the community a lot.
Yes, every day.
Yeah.
So my response is this: thank you, first of all, for the invitation. But we're very cognizant of what's happening across our great nation as pertains to police shootings and interaction and how they're perceived. We just wanted to let everyone know, in Boston, we use those as teachable moments. So if there's something going on, we're learning from that as well. But it also strengthens our community policing model. We're not the Boston from the 40s, 50s, and 60s, but we do acknowledge the past history. And from that, now we're on level playing ground where we have empathy, sympathy, and respect. And then as a community, we can move forward, understanding each other. I don't dehumanize you, you don't dehumanize me. I'm not scared of you, you're not scared of me, because we acknowledge everything that's going on, but we're here under that village concept of community policing to move forward together.
Yeah, and talking a little bit about humanizing police officers, let's talk a little bit about the personal sacrifices that your men and women go through, because I don't think we hear enough of that in the news. I don't see profiles on cops as much. I don't see them, someone used the word robotic, right? They're not robots, right?
No, they're not. They're human beings. They have the same likes and hobbies and families as everyone else. The other thing is, these guys and gals work nights, weekends, holidays, a lot of time away from the family. A lot of times they're forced to work extra shifts, especially in the warmer months and the summer months, and they do have to deal with a lot of baggage from what they deal with in the streets. So they got to go home and stuff, anything from people dying from overdoses, suicides, a lot of people that are struggling with addiction, mental illness, and so on. And, you try to make sure that everyone's doing well, but those things do kind of wear people down at times.
Yeah. And people forget, right, that does weigh on human beings. And there are good and great cops. Sometimes there are not good cops. And sometimes the good cops, end up paying the price for maybe one or two bad apples, right, Chief?
Well, you're right. I mean, certainly there's times when there's an incident in any one of our departments, really any department around the country, and law enforcement in general, policing in general, gets painted with one wide brush. And it's too bad it has to be like that. I know that in these 4 agencies, and honestly, I can probably speak for all the agencies across this state, that we all have mechanisms in place when someone is a bad apple, as you indicated, that we will investigate it fully. If it's a situation where they should be removed from the police department and separated, they will be. We have mechanisms to make sure that we address that.
I'm going to Kenny on this one just because of a little follow-up, because last time you were here, I asked you this question, or Byron did, and you talked about it. It's also made the job of recruiting a lot more difficult, right?
Oh, yeah. For some reason, there's a lot of individuals who I talk to in the community, they don't want to take the exam for whatever reason, be it what's going on in the country. What we got to try to do is convince these individuals that if they want to affect change, to come and join us. I encourage everybody to who want to see positive change in the community, to between the community and police, to come and join us. I'm thinking back on a month and a half ago down in Dallas when Chief David Brown stated that he challenged the protesters and some of the community members that if you want to affect change, change happens from within. Come and join our ranks. And within 2 weeks, he had 1,000 applicants.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Superintendent Gross, you're out in the community, and I imagine, and I've seen you, you're very friendly and everything. Are you sometimes breaking some of these misconceptions? Have everybody said, I didn't know police officers were like you? I mean, I know they're all like you, but you're a pretty unique guy. But
We have a ways to go.
Yeah.
We can be that.
But what are some of the misconceptions people have of some of your men and women in blue?
Like Chief Mazzie touched upon that. We're not robotic, we're human. We're not desensitized to violence because we see it sometimes in our career. And the misconception of that machismo culture, like nothing affects you guys, you're robots, you just keep going. And the biggest misconception is that we want to arrest the problems away. That's the biggest misconception. We don't want to do that. We want to work with the community to work with those families with the most challenges so that they don't go on the wrong side of the law. Like in our stations, 4 of our most challenged, we have clinical social workers in the station. And every year our arrest rate goes down, and it shows that you can't arrest the problems away. So there's a misconception. You're just interested in locking up members of our community. No, we're interested in us working together to solve those problems in the community.
I'm going to give you guys an opportunity a little bit to talk a little bit about what happens when we're not there, maybe the media or the social media, right? We see the confrontations, we see the stuff that's all over, not just social media, but when something happens, it's all over CNN, Fox, everything. But what happens when the cameras aren't there and some of your men and women do something great? Do you feel frustrated that message doesn't get out enough?
Sure. I don't know if it's frustrated. I mean, it happens a lot. I mean, certainly in terms of a scale, probably 99% of the time, officers are doing something great. We don't necessarily, we meaning us and officers in general, don't necessarily look for a pat in the back. When it comes our way, when it comes the way of our personnel, it is great. People oftentimes think that an incentive is, officers getting a raise or more money. If one of us in the positions we have, if we walk up to one of our officers and grab them one-on-one and put our hand around their back and say, that was a great job, you did. That's a moment in their life, believe it or not, and this comes from all of us, and we've all had this experience, that they never forget.
Okay. Speaking of that, our viewers, right? Is there anything that our viewers can do other than getting involved in stuff, just on a daily basis? And I'll give you an example. If you're stopped at a stoplight and you see some police officers, does saying thank you for your sacrifice and just going out, does that make a big difference?
Oh, sure. Like the Chief just said.
Huge difference.
Yeah, big difference. The small things do matter. When you're recognized for the good work you're doing by your bosses and by the public, it means big. It's big, And interacting with transit police, we interact with about thousands of people per day. Within that, officers are helping people with their baby carriages, finding lost property, navigating the system, standing by a broke-down motor vehicle.
And that never makes the news.
It never
I know
does.
you've
But
heard
you know what, though? It's great work that they do.
You want to add something?
Alberto, yes. A number of years back, we had the Suffolk University Juvenile Justice Law Center out, and we were working on how to improve police youth relations. And they came out and interviewed about 1,500 kids in our streets. And the three things that all these, the feedback from these kids came back, the three top things on how to do that were if the police smiled, waved, and physically said hello. So that cost us nothing to do. That's what the kind of stuff we pushed out. I mean, that's good stuff. It's contagious when you smile to someone, you wave to someone, you physically say hello to them and engage them. And that's the kind of basic things we try to do to make people feel good.
All right, so I'm going to end with that. If you're out there watching today, say hi to your police officer and tell them that if you're in Everett, Chelsea, Boston, or on the T, that you saw the chief and they said to do that. All right, thank you guys. And
Thank you.
open
Thanks for the
platform for you.
invitation.
Hold on, because I got a treat for you guys. I know you guys are baseball fans.
Is it an ice cream truck?
This is not an ice cream truck. But a nice little treat for all you guys. 22 years ago, last month, I sat down with baseball's Alex Rodriguez in what was his very first interview as a major leaguer. You see, his big league debut was here at Fenway Park on July 8, 1994. I'll never forget it. Well, when he announced his retirement last week, as fate would have it, his last road game was played right here at Fenway Park. And lo and behold, I was able to sit down with A-Rod for what may have been his last one-on-one interview on camera. So let's take a peek a little before and after chat with A-Rod at Fenway Park. Okay, everybody. So as you know, I put up on Facebook 22 years ago, Alex's first interview ever. It's 22 years later. Do you remember that day? July 8th, 1994. We were up there. Remember that day?
Yeah, I do. It's been a blur. It feels like yesterday.
It does feel like yesterday. Now, I remember that night we went out for a little while, and the next day, Ken Griffey said, hey, you can't be taking this young guy out. And he was teaching you a lot of stuff. What have you learned in the game that you pass on to other players, young players, after 22 years?
Well, I mean, that's a loaded question, but Griffey was a great leader and was really good to me and a great mentor of mine, as was Edgar Martinez and Joey Cora. But I think for me, I really look forward to the next chapter of my career, and that's to help out the next generation of Yankees, and I'm excited for it.
So isn't it ironic that you had your first interview and first game here, and the last home series as a player is going to be at Fenway? Lots of different memories, Boston, the fans, and Fenway Park, right?
I love Boston. The fans in Boston have been great over the years. We've had some epic battles here. If you think about the mid-2000s, with some of the greatest games that I can ever remember. I'm going to have some really fond memories of not only Fenway Park and where it all started for me, but how great the fans have been to me over the years.
And you're a family guy now, right? I mean, your sister's on Facebook all the time. She saw the interview. Your mom, I sent her the first interview 22 years ago, but now you have I have a daughter now, too. Since we met, I didn't have any kids, you didn't have any kids, and now we both have daughters. Changes your life a little bit to be a dad, right?
Well, there's nothing like it. I mean, I have two daughters, Natasha and Ella. They're 11 and 8, and I'm going to have an opportunity to spend a lot more time with them, and yeah, it's going to be great to have time with them.
Yeah, don't get a big hit, because I remember when Alex was born, my Alex, 18 years ago. You were like, dude, did you name her after me? I'm like, no. I just like the name Alexandra.
Okay.
All right, man. Oh, yeah. All the luck, okay? 22 years. Wow, 22 years in the making. All right, when we come back, information on an event put together by Latino professionals that help Boston Children's Hospital to keep working their miracles. All the details coming up right here on Urban Update.